The East Palace is a South Korean mystery thriller supernatural show that takes place in an imagined dynasty some couple hundred years ago. It features or focuses around a king who has had a 30-year curse, and he's next. And so he finally decides to bring in a potential slayer of spirits. I say potential because he pretends, or at least doesn't seem to believe this at the very beginning of the show. This brings in our lead, who pretends to be a master of feng shui because he's there pretending to not actually be a slayer because they don't believe in spirits. And a daughter of the king is returned because she's basically the legitimate daughter of his. So she's a princess, and the princess and the slayer work together in order to find out what is going on in this palace. In order for the main lead guy to fight these demons, he basically drowns himself in a lake. He can kill himself in other ways. Some of them are ridiculous. Like in one episode, he tries to starve himself to death. Anybody who knows anything about anything knows that takes quite a bit of time to do. Anyway, so he normally drowns himself in a lake while his co-partner holds onto a rope and brings him back in, and when he's finished doing his business, and then everything is fine. So yeah, he jumps between these two different worlds in this, and he's got his reasons why he's able to do this, because of his mommy, etc., etc. And there's a lot of lore in this. I will give the show that. There's a lot of lore, but there's also a lot of talking. There's a lot of political intrigue, which is boring as all hell, because we're only here to see the fighting. We're here to see the action. If you're going to do political intrigue, do it at a level of Game of Thrones, not the last few seasons, because it's weak. It's weak sauce in this. It really, really is. They go over the same revelations episode after episode after episode. There are 8 episodes, and each one's about an hour long. So it's a lot. It's 8 hours of episodes. Although it's a short season, when you make each episode an hour, not 45 minutes, things tend to drag, and this does drag. Other than the action beats, of which there are usually about 5 to 10 minutes per episode towards the end, fast forward, the intrigue is not very intriguing because, as I said, they go over the same thing over and over and over again. When you find out who the baddie is, or baddies are, each episode, the main characters rediscover this and act shocked as much as their CGI faces can allow them to about the revelation of who the baddie is. I mean, it gets tiresome. I sat there just going, are you joking? We've been through this already an hour ago. Mate, an hour ago. You knew this an hour ago. Why are you acting surprised? The king also makes me laugh because he banishes the girl, his daughter, every episode as well. Get the hell out of here! Don't talk to me like that. You're banished, and then she doesn't get banished. So banishing means nothing in this, and that's where the problem with this political intrigue lies: is that there are no real consequences. The two leads can't die. They are superhuman leads. The main guy can technically he can die. That's how he goes under the underworld. Sorry, but he also doesn't die in the real world. He has his guts cut out. No, fine, mate, flesh wound, walking it off, and it really loses any credible threat when this happens, as it does in a lot of shows. At least pretend that the characters are in a situation where they might not come back, but there is no sort of lies or apprehension that these characters are anything but absolutely plot armor resistant to death, and that gets boring. I think I mentioned at the very beginning of this, the first 4 episodes were really, really fun because you don't know where this is going. Certain plot points have only been revealed once or twice or 3 or 4 times. You could just about bear with that. And like I say, the action is great. The action is almost like watching an episode, playing the game Devil May Cry. And the characters, like the baddies in it, are as beautifully imagined as things from Final Fantasy. So the monsters in this are great, and they look great, and the stylization is amazing. So when he goes into this underworld, the colors change to red, which is why I thought of Stranger Things, to yellows. The almost brushed renderings are fantastic, really stunning. They put obviously the money into the action and into the underworld because they sure as hell didn't spend too much on the plot points. The acting over here is also incredibly wooden, or should I say 1 pixel deep, because as I mentioned, the faces look like they're not even real. They look AI. In fact, I had to Google to see whether the lead character, the lead chick, was AI'd because she just doesn't look real. There's no crease lines, there's nothing. So that was really weird. There was also a character in this who was amazing in the sense that she made me want to throw things at my TV. There's the Gran, I think she's the king's mother. She's the most infuriatingly obnoxious person that you're ever likely to see in a show. She's incredible. She makes you mad. She kind of reminds me of Joffrey and how he used to get under people's blood. under people's skin in Game of Thrones. So there are certain characters who stand and shine. The king, boring. I got tired of him very quickly. There's a few other characters. One who is a shaman, who's quite a lot of fun. And the lore in this is quite well thought out, except for the fact that the laws in the lore aren't consistent. One moment they're saying you can't do this particular thing to a demon because nothing will happen, and then the next scene or the next episode they're doing exactly that. So the consistency throughout the entire show is one of the biggest faults or biggest failures. Is that the story is not consistent because they go over the same thing over and over and over. The lore is not the same thing, and they constantly expand on the lore to try and excuse the holes or the leaps of logic and plot holes of what you've seen beforehand. So it's a shame. I think the show could have been much better if they had lent into the horror, if they didn't Netflixification it to the nth degree, where it's accessible by absolutely everyone, which is nice, but at the same time, it's an adult show. There's a lot of very adult themes going on in this, from rape to murder to patricide, all these kind of themes. So it's not for children, and yet they have dumbed it down so they can get as much a wider audience as possible. So yeah, to me, this is a 6 out of 10. I know that there are reviewers out there who disagree with me. I think there's only 12 reviews actually on Rotten Tomatoes by critics, and they've given it 100%, or at least they've all said that it's worth watching. I would say it's worth watching if you like action, if you know how to fast forward, and yeah, enjoy the action, because I think the plot is pretty much ridiculous.